Shalom, shalom, fam. It's the Hebrew Life. Sorry for the delay, but this is Q.P.A. Questions, problems, and answers. We got a good show coming up for y'all, man. Sorry for the delay. You know, we had some technical difficulties, but we here now, man. Let's get it. Let's go. Mark, ready, set, go. Mark, ready, set, go. Mark, ready, set, go. Cold like Chicago snow. Holla can't keep police. Making room in the building for my people like it's lease. When we play for keeps. Killing beats my specialty. Tony Hawk, kick, flip me, twist me, grinding specialty. If my flow is drugs, I'm like schedule 1, you schedule 3. Serve the most high so I could become a better me. Know the game ain't free. Gotta pay attention. She is hot up in the kitchen. See, had them playing. Yeah. First up, you know, we got, I know I'm late, we got the submarine thing going on. Riot still in Paris. The new GMO foods being put out as an acceptance, I guess, to the government because the people are not accepting it. We got a lot coming up this show, man. Let's get it.
Millionaires spent about $250,000 just to go undersea. Millionaires spent about $250,000 just to go undersea. That's about $1.2 million just to all go underneath. And after that, the government spent $7 million just to go find and seek 5 millionaires who all risk their own life without no necessity. And that's the reason why I never listen anytime I see a politician speak. Because $8 million is enough to help a lot of homeless people have a place to sleep. $8 million is enough to help a lot of hungry people have a meal to eat. And since we talking about the food we eat, let me tell y'all why it's getting deep. While we was looking at the submarine, they just passed a whole new law. They approved to start selling lab-grown meat in all of our food stores. If we all get sick in 2020, we about to be sick for sure. We ain't drowning no submarine, but we drowning in a whole different shore. The thing that I don't get is how rent, food, and water keep going up more. America keep finding more ways just to take more from the poor people struggling on the land. Rich people going to the ocean floor. Distracted us all once again just to ruin our country more.
Yeah. Y'all heard it. I had the video, man. How the people died in the submarine. It was real graphic. They said they got balled up like a soda can, man. When that pressure from the sea hit them down low. So but in other words, you know, I stay in the Chicago area. You know, if y'all haven't heard, there was a big smog of smoke over the city. You know what I'm saying? For those that don't know. So yeah, man, we had checking all my levels and stuff, making sure everything good. So I'm gonna play that for y'all. Y'all check it out.
White in New York was making all them TikToks. So y'all remember like 2 weeks ago, everybody in New York was making all them TikToks about the smoke and shit in the air,
Due to the smoke from more than 400 wildfires burning in Canada, one can barely make out the skyline.
This is terrible. This is terrible.
In the South Bronx, where asthma rates are among the highest in the country.
I don't know really what's going on, but I do know they said this is supposed to keep me safe.
People were seen donning face masks to protect themselves from smoky skies.
Well, I'm in Chicago, Illinois, and the same shit going on. Somebody put me on game, you know, I don't know everything. I'm not really knowledgeable about this. Is this the same smoke from New York? I heard the news say it's from Canada, so this the same fire? Now it's here, make that make sense to me. I'll never believe them. It's like, damn, they want us to put the mask back on again. It don't make sense to me. Is this COVID they putting in the air? I don't know.
Young is live at North Avenue Beach with details. Eric. Well, good morning to the both of you. While there has not been any official air quality alert issued for this area or statewide here, neighboring states have seen those alerts come through. And as you heard Alyssa say, that we are already in the unhealthy category. Now, this
Drake, hey, we're gonna have to talk, Drizzy. Like, what's popping out there in Canada? Y'all can't handle them fires and shit. Got my peoples out here hard
time-lapse
to
video
out
from
here.
yesterday evening looking north from the Hancock. Along with the clouds, you can catch the glimpses of orange in the sky. According to different websites, Chicago could have some of the worst air in the country today. The Canadian wildfires that have been raging for weeks is causing all of these issues. While we will continue to be impacted by the wildfires, we don't expect to see what New York City saw about 3 weeks ago. You'll remember the eerie orange glow and smoke. Still, it will be hazy out here today, and if you are sensitive to that smoke, you should obviously limit your time outdoors. We, of course, are checking with state and local agencies to see if one of those air quality alerts will be issued.
That's what they say. But we gonna see, man. We got other news about what's going on with this big smoke. You know, I find it very funny that, you know, the forest fire started, 20 some odd days ago, and it's just now reaching. And it's reaching in several states: Minneapolis, Chicago, New York, Indiana. This isn't a small fire. From the fire I'm seeing on the news, if they say all that smoke is coming from that, I guess.
Government is so shady. Literally, I woke up this morning, and if you're any
Chicago.
I am on.
You guys, our fucking government is so shady. Literally, I woke up this morning, and if you're anywhere in Northwest Indiana to all the way to Chicago, you know that we could barely see this morning. Like, the air quality is so bad right now. It's actually the worst in the world ever right now. Don't believe me? Look at this. And look at this. I know how you girls like to tussle in my comments about articles and everything else, but just fucking look it up. I don't got time to argue with y'all today. A bitch can't even breathe. Basically, they're trying to say that the Canadian wildfires is the cause of all this smoke and shit in the air, or whatever's in the air, but it's bullshit. Because apparently people have been calling 911 since Sunday, saying that we smell gas and that there is this rotten smell, which you know is a smell that they add to the gas in your stove so that we can, be aware of it and not die. Y'all, why the fuck did it just come out that BP actually had a leak? And BP claims that it's just a smell, but we all know when you smell gas, it's gas. I honestly think there was a major BP gas leak in the Chicago plant. Here's the article. Suspecting a gas leak, hundreds of calls flooded 911, leading police departments across the region, including Chesterton, Valparaiso, Portage, and Michigan City. Now, if you're somewhere in the world you don't know where those cities are, we are literally directly around the Chicagoland area. Y'all, didn't they come out today and say this? Just look at it. The BP Whiting Refinery, which is the mill where they have BP gas and everything else that could potentially kill us if it explodes, releases a statement saying that it was an unplanned flaring as Northwest Indiana residents reported smell. They didn't want to come out and tell us some goddamn wildfires. You telling me these wildfires skipped every other city and state before Canada and just decided to drop in Northwest Indiana at the same time that BP's having a leak? This is a prime example of how the government will fucking lie and lie and lie and lie. They don't want people to freak out, but I have asthma, and I literally went outside for 2 minutes after I got off work, and I could not fucking breathe. My chest hurts. I've had to take an albuterol inhaler. I couldn't even get the shit out. Okay? It literally looks like the fucking apocalypse outside, and y'all want to tell us it's Canadian wildfires. If y'all don't get y'all dumb, stupid, real goofy asses the fuck out here and clean this shit up,
In millionaire spent about $250,000 just to go undersea. Millionaire spent about $250,000 just to go undersea. That's about $1.2 million just to all go underneath. And after that, the government spent $7 million just to go find and seek 5 millionaires who all risk their own life without no necessity. And that's the reason why I never listen anytime I see a politician speak. Because 8 million is enough to help a lot of homeless people have a place to sleep. 8 million is enough to help a lot of hungry people have a meal to eat. And since we talking about the food we eat, let me tell y'all why it's getting deep. While we was looking at the submarine, they just passed a whole new law. They approved to start selling lab-grown meat in all of our food stores. If we all get sick in 2020, we about to be sick for sure. We ain't drowning no submarine, but we drowning in a whole different shore. The thing that I don't get is how rent, food, and water keep going up more. America keep finding more ways just to take more from the poor people struggling on the land. Rich people going to the ocean floor. Distracted us all once again just to ruin our country more.
Murder charge.
The U.S. approved the sale of lab-grown meat made from animal cells for the first time.
So, y'all do plan on putting a label on the mutant meat, right? Like, I ain't gonna just throw it on the shelf with everything else and act like it's cool. I mean, don't call the FBI on me or anything, but I just find it hard to trust y'all done made some safe-to-eat prosthetic chicken meat if y'all done had ample amount of time to find a cure for cancer and ain't found that yet.
Y'all heard what he said? They doing a lot of stuff, trying to go to Mars, trying to touch the moon. Meanwhile, people still are losing their life to cancer, diseases that's been around for hundreds of years now, that they still don't, well, they have the ingredients to it, but they're not going to give it to you. Now, I find it very funny that, I've been hearing about all these meat factories closing, and now we hear about this prosthetic meat that they're putting out. Now, they're going to try to give you a good, positive aim on why they're doing these things, but the simple fact is they playing God. And natural is always going to be better than artificial. Now, they saying this is a hoax, but everybody is keeping count of how many meat factories are dying and burning up and going in flames.
We've been seeing a lot of these sorts of posts circulating on social media these past few days. In it, they claim that there has been an increase in fires at food processing plants in the U.S. in order to starve the population. And even politicians have gotten involved, such as Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, that insinuated on Twitter that maybe these fires were not accidental after all. And on Facebook, we've been seeing these sorts of posts, even suggesting that Bill Gates is behind all of this. Now, here in the Cube, we have fact-checked these claims, and we have found no evidence that suggests that these fires were premeditated in order to create some sort of national food shortage. And as you can see, a lot of these fires were accidental, like this one, for example, in Maine. And only 3 fires are still undergoing some sort of investigation. But has there really been an alarming increase? Let's take a look at the numbers. This report by the USDA, so that's the U.S. Department of Agriculture in 2019, stated that there are over 36,000 food processing plants in the U.S. And according to this report by the NFPA, so that's the National Fire Protection Association, the annual average of fires between 2015 and 2019 in food processing plants was over 5,000. So as you can see, it is quite a common occurrence. Also, in the first 4 months of this year, so 2022, there have been approximately 20 fires at food plants, according to a spokesperson from the NFPA that gave an interview to factcheck.org. So as you can see, these numbers aren't really that alarming. And in addition to that, a lot of these plants were only shut down temporarily, so this could not have caused a national food crisis. And the USDA even said on their website that there are currently no food shortages or disruptions in the United States.
Y'all heard what they said. No food shortages. But we got the fact sheet. We got the Carfax, and that's a lie. It's funny to me that a UK, Britain, Europe news channel was reporting on what's going on in America like they know what's really going on the ground. They only trying to report on what's a hoax and what's not, to try to fact check anything else, anything that's out that says otherwise. Now we got the process on this prosthetic meat, I'm gonna call it. Clone meat, as Cat Williams would call it. Now, if you ask me, they've been giving people this type of meat. I don't believe that the food has been real for probably the last 10 years, the last 5 years. You know, I was born in 90. Things just don't taste the same. And if you ask me, the process is going to end up hurting people more than it's going to help people, because you are what you eat. And if you're not eating real meat and you're eating artificial form of it, it's going to make you artificial. So let's check out this process, family.
Go into the room, the voice said. It may seem like a weird room, but that's all right, because it is a weird room. Don't be afraid, the voice said. Sit down in the chair, drink some water. Wait for the hand, and take what the hand gives you. This, the voice said, is your meat. Look at it, and be thankful. Be thankful because this meat did not come from an animal. No, this meat was grown in a vat. If this drone was hovering over a slaughterhouse, you would probably turn away before watching what comes next. We like our tasty burgers. We just don't want to think about what went into making them. Medium rare with American cheese, but please hold the misery. This meat factory, though, is different. It's...
Hold up, family, hold up. The camera ain't right. We want to bring it back with the camera right. I want the camera right around. So we're going to skip that and we're going to come back to that. And we're going to put y'all on to what was said a year ago by the owner of Goya. You know Goya, who produced the beans and all of the good corn and all that stuff. Yeah. Now, his colleagues has been trying to take the mic from him and stop him from being the spokesman. Even though he has the money, he seems not to care about it because he's willing to put his life on the line to tell the truth. Y'all check this out, and y'all check how this news analyst didn't like hearing what they was hearing, and they was kind of malfunctioning because they knew inside their job description they supposed to stop him from saying these things, but they had no control over this man.
Inflation hitting a new 40-year high in the month of March. Americans especially getting hit hard at the grocery store. The price of items like dried beans, canned vegetables, flour, all up better than 10% from the same time just 1 year ago. Joining me right now is the president and CEO of Goya Foods, Bob Unanue. Bob, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Assess the situation. How do you see inflation today?
Good to see you, Maria. We are on the precipice of a global food crisis. God created humanity. Humanity has created every way to destroy itself, from nuclear, biological, chemical. But now we've waged a war. We've weaponized food. In the Ukraine, between the Ukraine and Russia, they represent 50% of the world's production of fertilizer, 30% wheat, 20% corn, 2.5 million acres of sunflowers, other food and minerals. They also have sand for fracking, sand for glass. And, you know, they have, with Russia's doing with their land bridge, they're also cutting off the Ukraine to the sea. They've taken Mariupol, pretty much. Odessa is left. If they cut off Odessa, then they basically landlock the Ukraine, and they can't export. They can't either plant. Right now we're in the planting season in southeast Ukraine, where all these products are grown. They've attacked irrigation systems. They've attacked train systems. And they've sent millions of women and children into exile. But let me say that we have provoked, in a way, this war by showing an incredible weakness around the globe and lack of resolve to protect the women, children, and the innocent. It started in Afghanistan, when we left women and children behind. Usually women and children go first. We left them behind. And now they've sent millions of women into exile. If the United States, the greatest country on earth, doesn't stand up for the defenseless, who will? We will lose this country unless we love and build versus hate and destroy. We've given the green light around the world for people to abuse and exploit women and children. We've given that green light by showing our weakness.
Well, Bob, I understand everything that you're saying, and the Afghanistan debacle really triggered so many bad outcomes from our adversaries across the world. But what I'm really trying to understand is what's going on with the price of food. We're looking at double-digit increases in terms of the price. You are bringing into this conversation a much bigger issue and a potential food shortage crisis. Are you talking about a food shortage crisis where Americans are not going to have access to food, never mind paying up in the double digits for the price of food?
America will say, let them eat cake, because we have abundance. We're the biggest consumers in the world. The countries that will suffer are the innocent ones in Africa and around the globe. We are the biggest consumers of drugs, of trafficking, of everything. We're gluttonous. We're going to have to tighten our belt and consume less. We've gone from oil independence to oil dependence. We've given up that position to have our oil at cost and to buy it retail and then ship it. Our shipping, when we bring in stuff from, let's say, Thailand, coconut water, we're paying 10 times the freight we usually take. Now, we have oil in our land and in a pipe with zero transportation, zero ecological disasters, and we got to ship it in a boat and put the world in jeopardy if a ship is bombed or if it goes aground or whatever. So we've gone from oil independence to be dependent. We're dependent now on everybody else. We're the greatest nation on earth. We've been dependent on nobody.
As opposed,
we've given that up. We've given that up.
Yeah, as opposed to having the product in a pipeline under the sea. I understand the analogy and the comparison that you're making. Bob, let me get your take on this, because I get what you're saying.
But the cost
of
that,
very,
Maria,
very frightening notion. The cost. What are you seeing in terms of the cost? And do you think that things are going to get worse? So you're sitting there at Goya. You are have a front row seat. Do you think these prices go even higher later on this year? Let's start there.
The biggest component in food and anything is transportation. The transportation has skyrocketed because we've given up our independence. But you know, when you have an unbalance in the food production, in 2008, the price of grains tripled. Why? Because we were planting corn for ethanol instead of rice and grains and other things. You know, the amount of sugar in corn to produce ethanol, it takes 3 gallons of fuel to make 5 gallons of ethanol. Whereas if you're not using sugar cane, which is much more higher sugar content. So, you know, but when you have an imbalance in the world production, 50% of fertilizer, that's the farmers are paying double for fertilizer. They're planting less. The yields are going to be less. Their costs are going to go up. You know, with 30% of the world's wheat production, if that goes unplanted in the Ukraine and corn and other things, that our world is very it's a very tight balance. And if we interrupt the food production, we will have a food crisis. Prices will go through the roof. We can afford it as a rich country. We're so abundant. But other countries, unfortunately, will not. And we will be the last ones affected. But like Marie Antoinette said, let them eat cake.
Wow.
Go into the room, the voice said. It may seem like a weird room, but that's all right, because it is a weird room. Don't be afraid, the voice said. Sit down in the chair, drink some water. Wait for the hand, and take what the hand gives you. This, the voice said, is your meat. Look at it, and be thankful. Be thankful because this meat did not come from an animal. No, This meat was grown in a vat. If this drone was hovering over a slaughterhouse, you would probably turn away before watching what comes next. We like our tasty burgers. We just don't want to think about what went into making them. Medium rare with American cheese, but please hold the misery. This meat factory, though, is different. It's your friendly neighborhood abattoir, and it belongs to Upside Foods.
Meat is fundamentally the most delicious, most desired food across all cultures, and it's the center of plate for nearly everything you can imagine. People love eating meat, and we want to be able to keep eating meat for thousands of years coming up. But the challenge we are facing at the moment is there's just not enough meat to be able to produce for a growing population that wants to get more and more of it.
The person in charge of Upside is this fella, Uma Valetti. He's not really into killing floors of death.
There's no slaughter here. And we're talking about real meat, not plant-based proteins or meat alternatives. We're growing real meat using animal cells, but not having to raise and slaughter animals. This is the Upside Foods Production Facility and Innovation Center. What we're doing at Upside Foods really is finding a way to grow real meat directly from animal cells into the meat we love. If you look around the facility, you'll have small, medium, large cultivators all around us. They're meant to serve one single purpose, which is to grow real meat from any animal and be able to grow that in a matter of 10 to 12 days.
Put simply, Upside grows meat in these vats. It takes animal cells, feeds them nutrients, waits a couple of weeks, and then digs into the vats and harvests out some pork chops or chicken breasts.
If you look at this place, I mean, it looks like a brewery, and that's essentially what it is, right?
Right. This should be very familiar to people. When you walk to a brewery, you see very large steel tanks. When you walk into a future meat production facility, you should be able to see very clean tanks that are there, growing meat of any species we love to eat.
These are words that make sense when put together, although the concept itself takes some getting used to.
So we'll take cells from a cow, we'll take cells from a pig or cells from a chicken, and we'll grow them outside the animal, and we provide them with clean and nutritious ingredients in a clean environment, and we'll let them grow for a couple of weeks. At the end of the couple of weeks, we'll harvest meat, which is essentially the raw meat that you would get when an animal is slaughtered, and ultimately you cook it just like you always cooked meat. What's the largest piece of meat you've ever eaten?
Just a giant steak.
40 ounces?
Yeah, I think I've probably gotten to the 40 range.
Ounces, okay. Yeah. You had to grow a 2,000 pound steer.
Yeah.
And then cut it back down to 40 ounces. Now imagine what happens in the reverse. We're building that same meat from the building blocks of cells much faster than what it takes a beef cattle to grow, which takes 2 years. That's really why the resource use for cultivated meat is 10 times lower for water use or greenhouse gas emissions compared to growing an entire animal for 2 years and then cutting it back down to this 40-ounce steak.
Upside has raised more than $200 million from the likes of Bill Gates, Richard Branson, and food giants like Tyson and Cargill. They're all betting that the company will crack the code on making lots of meat without needing to do any slaughtering. That sound you hear is pigs and chickens and cows rejoicing.
Yeah. So, they taking something that takes 10 to 12 months, maybe 24 months to grow, and they're growing it within 10 to 12 weeks. Now, I know that sounds real good. It sounds like a big leap for science and for the world. But let me break it down to you. Nothing good comes out of moving fast or doing anything in haste. Microwaves, they're not really that good. It's not the best way to cook the food. Driving fast, wanting to have sex fast, rushing to marriage, rushing to do anything has been proven in life the end in bad results. So this process of them speeding up the cells of the animal, not even the animal. They already did that. That's what injecting the animals with all different type of things to make them grow fast and grow abnormally. But now we're to the point where they're taking the cells of the animal and they're growing it into an actual state. Taking the cells of a cow and making it a steak. Taking the cells of a pig and turning it into a pork chop. If we're not in the days of Noah, pay. It might seem like it's a big leap in science, but the evil spirits, the fallen, they give these people knowledge to do things. Man is going to keep trying to make things easier for themselves, but make things worse for themselves until they kill themselves. But fear not. Christ already told us about these times and that they were coming. We have to endure to the end. We have no control over it. So we have to endure to the end. All the signs are going off at his coming.
Will this happen, and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Jesus answered, Watch out that you are not deceived, for many will come in my name, claiming, I am he, and the time is near. Do not follow them. When you hear of wars and uprisings, do not be frightened. These things must happen first, but the end will not come right away. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven. All these are the beginning of birth pains. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. People will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Be careful, or your hearts will be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and the anxieties of life. And that day will close on you suddenly like a trap, for it will come on all those who live on the face of the whole earth. Be always on the watch, and pray that you may be able to escape all that is about to happen, and that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man. For then there will be great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. These events foretold in Scripture are commencing. History reveals they have been happening and are happening now, growing in proportion and intensity. One day, life as we know it will change drastically, unlike anything anyone has ever seen or known before. Are you prepared? For there will be calamity and disaster that disrupt lines of communication, food supplies, and water sources. 1/3 of Earth's population will be decimated. It will be a time of great tribulation. Our hardness of heart, our unrestrained evil has reached full cup, and the time has come where God intervenes to deal with the wickedness by shaking the heavenly bodies and arresting the tension of everyone on earth. This marks the judgment of the living before his glorious and long-awaited second coming, the harvest. Fear will strike the hearts of those of whom these events come upon unexpectedly, even the elect, uncertain of what is happening as the world turns to a state of panic. Take heed, for the Lord your God planned these things, and that they were spoken of through the prophet Daniel, by Jesus in the book of Matthew, John, and Luke, and through the apostle John in the book of Revelation. Know and understand these prophecies, for most aren't imagining nor anticipating such events. Who can conceive the magnitude of such devastation to befall earth in those days? We are living in the end times, and the last days are imminent. Hold fast to the Lord your God. Blessed is the one who reads.
Yeah. If You just tuning in, man. It's the Hebrew Life in Shock-Based Jerusalem. This is Q.P.A. Questions, Problems, and Answers. Let's talk. You're tuning in. The link in the chat. If you want to tune into this conversation, I would love the dialogue with you. Sharing a lot today. Not for people to be scared and to fear, but to know that we're coming near the time of the coming of the Messiah. Few bowls, a wrath left, few plagues left, few signs left for these heathens and these wicked, the wicked ones who sit at the top in wicked high places. All of this is an imitation of the Most High, from the fake meat to the crashing of the market to huddle everybody up like sheep. The weather, we don't know what they put in the air. I hear they have a new strand, a C-22 coming out, 23 probably. It's all kind of things happening. Keep your eyes open. I want to get into what's going on in the black community right fast. There's a lot of stuff going on. Everybody talking about the young man who had to shoot and kill a man, I believe, in Chicago for hitting on his mother while she was in the shop. Heard some things happen after that. But, bottom line, no man should be hitting and pounding on a woman like he was trying to do from the video I seen. He was asking, must have been not all together in the head, and his spirit wasn't all the way right, because he was asking to die, hitting on anybody, whether that was somebody's brother, son, boyfriend. It really didn't matter. Cousin, they probably would have did the same thing a 14-year-old did. Being that he's 14 and he can't win, he's probably not going to win a scrap with this grown man who's hitting on his mother. What happened. I find it very funny they use this type of thing happens all the time, but they put it in the forefront in the news to keep people distracted. First it was the submarine, then it's this. People will continue to be distracted on social media with different subjects and never really know what's really going on in the world, and this is by design. This channel is for those that want to know what's really going on in the world. Politics, geopolitics. We watching the sons of the coming of the Son of the Highest, the Messiah. Recently in France, because of their pension and age thing they did with the money, the young people are not having it. They're not having how the government is treating them and how they're, sinking their own government for the sake of the EU's plans. All of this Russia-phobia they pushing. And Macron has no control of France, just like Zelensky has no control of Ukraine. You just seen the CEO of Goya saying that, this war is going to take major casualties financially and economically, with Russia and Ukraine producing soil and wheat at a large number for the world. So this war isn't good for anybody, but wars and rumors of war should happen, and this is just the beginning of birth pains of the coming of the man who's gonna rule the world with an iron rod. It's coming to an end. The usury of the world, mainly of the children of Judah. But let's see what's going on in France.
This institute, what you do, and our common values. Hello.
I think we lost something. Where is French democracy? Where did we lose it?
I can answer this question if you give me some time.
Nobody listens. You have millions of people in the streets. Conventions of climate has been put aside. What can you say when you talk about Europe?
Do you allow me to answer? There are places where you can have violence. This is exactly places where this type of expressions are forbidden. And this is why I do believe it's very important to have social debate. I don't know, and I can answer all the questions you have on what we are discussing in France, the law we are passing, and how this is a democracy. This institute.
So you have an idea. You want to start a business, and you
Turning overseas now, tonight, French President Emmanuel Macron urged parents to keep their children off the streets before a fourth night of protests sparked by a deadly police shooting. CBS's Elaine Cobb is in Paris.
Fireworks turned into weapons as protesters launched them at riot police and buildings across France. Cars were torched and firefighters responded to some 6,000 fires over the last 2 nights. 45,000 police officers are on the streets. The government has deployed armoured vehicles to quell riots. Many local authorities have limited public transport services and imposed curfews. The protesters accuse the police of racism and excessive force after 17-year-old Nael, of Algerian-Moroccan descent, was shot dead at close range during a traffic stop Tuesday morning. The officer who fired the fatal shot has been placed under formal investigation for murder. A third of the 900 people arrested last night were under 18, some as young as 12. It's the responsibility of the parents to keep their children at home, said President Emmanuel Macron. Nael's mother, who led a march in his memory Thursday, will bury her son tomorrow, amid fears of renewed violence then and through the weekend. Elaine Cobb, CBS News, Paris.
Yeah. And we've been hearing about how they've been treating the Africans over there also. Yeah, we heard about it. We heard about them telling the people in Ukraine, the white people get on the buses first and the trains first. We heard about it all. Same thing is going on in France. Now they done killed some boy over there from Algeria. And they rioting. The young people ain't having it over there. They're already struggling. Then they pushing up the pension level, trying to get more and more years of work out of people. People watching their parents, probably 50, 60, 70 even, working, trying to make a living over there. Because Europe don't have the money like people think they do. America's whole reason for going over there and defending Ukraine is to protect their interests in Europe. Now, I want to talk about how they've been using us to promote ignorance for the past, I say 120 years, through the media, through movies, through music, through politics. They continue to use Judah and Israel to do their debauchery and foolery. Now, I find it very funny that they push drug selling shows to black people, tell the stories of drug sellers as if they're prolific and they're major in the growth of black people. They don't do this with their kind. We don't see movies about the son of Boston George or the son of white boy Rick from Detroit, but we can watch Big Meech and his son do a whole show about his father who sold drugs, had a Mexican plug and all of this. But we don't see shows about how white dudes, how the white dude, how, was flying in the drugs in Miami in the 70s and 80s. I want to play something because at the end of this, they try to make us the monsters. we don't have any planes and we don't have any boats, but somehow the drugs end up in our hands and we end up with the sentence in our hands also for it. So I'm gonna play this and I want y'all to check it out.
His worshippers were possessed by him. Now we begin to see why Dionysus, this god of masquerade and of possession, became the god of the theatre. Because in the early theatre, the actor believed himself to be possessed by the part he was playing.
I remember sometime we do 10 episodes for my show, and in this last season, I was hitting a block, right? I was like, oh, I'm not doing it right? So I went in the corner and then I was looking at the wall and I was like, come on, devil, right? Come to me, because I had to do something like crazy, right? Had nightmares for a month. So it does come.
Up to it or after?
After. Like I had nightmares every day. Like I felt that energy.
Snowfall's Damson Idris has relinquished his will and surrendered his soul to the god of theater. In this photo, he's broadcasting his spiritual allegiance, proudly displaying the Eye of Horus, the hallmark of the Dionysian cult.
Damson Idris was cast in Snowfall to magnify and glorify the spirits of the 1980s crack epidemic, which ravaged the Israelite community and destroyed many Israelite families. Ever since Hollywood's first hit blockbuster movie, The Birth of a Nation, their mission to destroy the image of the Israelites in the eyes of the world and in our own eyes has been consistent. Though they now employ more sophisticated deception, they have not deviated from their original goal or target.
That these folks have created death and destruction.
Now we end up being
many,
the monsters at the end of this.
For a very long
This
time.
video says 95,000.
When we did the search warrants, we seized on that particular day 3 pounds of meth.
They trying to say it's these people, but we don't bring
224
fentanyl into the country.
grams of fentanyl. Now, folks, 224 grams of fentanyl is potentially enough to overdose and kill 95,000
is these brothers innocent
people.
for selling drugs and poisoning
Did you
people?
hear
No,
what
they're
I
not.
said?
But at the end of the day, they're a small piece of the big picture, of the big puzzle of
We
fentanyl
also
and
seized
drugs.
a
and
kilo of
stuff. Fentanyl
cocaine,
comes from China.
almost a kilo
So
of
how is it ending up in the
MDMA,
hands of a black man in
oxycodone,
Florida so he could pass it around?
a 9mm
Make
handgun.
pills. We gonna find that out.
Imagine a convicted felon with a handgun, right? I mean, that's not anything new to most of you. And a pill press. Where's our pill press? It's supposed to be here. Do we have it someplace? Y'all didn't bring it here? Okay. So I want you to see the pill press or pictures of the pill press. That's right. They are so sophisticated that some of them are pressing the pills themselves. So you can get it either.
It's 2023. If you're not making at least some money on the internet.
Over the years, and as I said before, he started his crime career 30 years ago with an aggravated battery arrest. He, over the years, has accumulated 14 felony arrests, 6 misdemeanor arrests. He's been to prison 1 time, and yes, we served a search warrant at his house, one of the 3 search warrants, where we seized more drugs, and he is still in prison. He's not made bond. Then there's his girlfriend, Teresa Prince. She's 59. That's Odiah's girlfriend. She distributes drugs for Odiah. She didn't think it was any big deal. She went to jail. Now, she has bonded out. She's the only one that has bonded out.
Now, his girlfriend was a white woman. I found
Then
it
there's
very
Pop
funny.
Rogers.
She was the only one who
Kenneth
posted
Rogers is
bail.
38
The
years
rest
of
of them
age.
wasn't able to post bail, but
He's
the
one
white
of the
lady was able to
sons
post bail.
of Odiah. And he's kind of now taken over the head of the organization. He's had a crime spree for the last 24 years. His first arrest was in 1999, and it was a simple arrest for shoplifting. He is the one that was arrested as a major trafficker in 2020 when we instituted a wire investigation, or a telephone wiretap as we know them. We arrested
That
him
man
then,
looked
and he
just like
bonded
his
out.
father.
He's not
It's
been
crazy.
to trial yet.
You know, I'm not doing this to down my people.
On that 2020
These people probably
arrest.
don't know no better. They probably his father probably sold drugs and he sold drugs. He don't probably have an
Perpetuate this
education
problem
or none of
with its
that. Not
lack
saying he didn't
of
have a route
attention
away from it, but
to the juveniles, because they've
he had
already
to do what
figured
he
out
had
with
to
this
do.
arrest,
It's sad
they're
that
not going to
they
keep
end
you
up in this
locked up for
position
this
and they're the forefront of drugs when they're
until
really
one
just
day we
competitors.
do for a long time for second degree.
It's a big picture to this. These people are getting drugs that's not even from this country, and they're selling it. It's hard to make it out here, so I'm not gonna tell somebody what to do. But the whole thing is, we don't have boats, we don't have planes. Somebody is bringing the drugs in, and it's ended up in the hands of people, the black man mainly, who most black men in jail is for drug charges. Look at the statistics. I don't have to lie about anything. We're gonna play a video because the Gentile looked this up. Fentanyl is killing people, but people are still wanting, they still want to, it's crazy, you know. So let's really find out what this fentanyl thing is and why is they giving these black men, they finna get 30 years, they ain't gonna never probably get out of jail. Now, the whole thing is, where is this stuff coming from and how can we put a stop to it? Is this a biochemical war? Is China sending this stuff over on purpose? Is the Americans that stupid to keep doing the drug? What's really going on?
Generation of painkillers triggered an epidemic of opioid abuse in the United States. Well, since then, overdoses have killed more than 400,000 Americans. More than half of opioid deaths are caused by synthetic versions of the drug, such as fentanyl. Now, the largest supplier of that drug is China. Joining us now is Yahoo Finance's Adriana Belmonte with the story. Adriana.
Hi. So just to give like a little bit of a background here, fentanyl is the synthetic type of opioid, and it's 100 times more potent than morphine and 50 times more potent than heroin. So it's incredibly strong, and it's kind of been making its way through the market since about 2006, 2007. And it's the biggest supplier of this is from China, as you had said in the intro. And so I just kind of wanted to take a look at, how this all started, how did it make its way into the U.S. to begin with? And, talking to some DEA agents and some experts in the field, and it really has to do with lax postal service regulations. It kind of all goes back to that on both sides.
Well, don't they screen? When stuff goes through X-rays, and there are detectors of some sort, I thought.
Well, yes. So they started trying to fix this situation in 2018. They passed something called the STOP Act, which basically is like advanced electronic information for packages. But up until then, they were finding ways to get in. What they would do is they would ship these drugs through other countries. It would flow through Mexico. It would flow through, even some cases, through Canada. Or they would brand themselves as an import-export company, and they mislabel the packages.
What about the economic impact of this? Just because as we get more and more people that are addicted to opioids, we know that we've had a large section of the population therefore out of work because they're simply not operating on a day-to-day basis, or someone that would be full-time, attractive full-time employee. So any indication there in terms of what that means for the economy?
So I had done a previous article a few months ago about what the opioid crisis is costing taxpayers in lost revenue, and it's in the billions. And there's constantly reports coming out, and there's not a clear number, but it is in the billions. That's what everybody's agreed on. Even the White House has done their research on it, so it is having an impact, and it's affecting different industries as well. I haven't seen specifically what fentanyl has done, but just opioids in general, it's really had its consequences.
And we know as part of the trade negotiations between the U.S. and China that China has promised to stop fentanyl from coming into the U.S. Is there any indication that that vow has been working and that they're sticking to their word?
So I was asking about that because I was curious why this hasn't come up as much as, IP theft. But China actually has been doing their part. Several DEA agents I spoke to all said that. But the problem is it's like they can't keep up. They'll add something to the controlled substances list, but then these laboratories will slightly alter the molecular structure, and it creates what's called analogs. And then they'll try to add that to the controlled substance list, but it could take 8 to 12 months. So it's one person described it as like a game of whack-a-mole. They stop it in one area, and then it comes up in another, and it takes time to actually regulate it.
All right, Adriana, thank you very much. Story's on the page now.
It will be soon.
Man, it's been a good one, man. I find it very funny. I was looking at that chart. All the drugs come from the Northeast and the Midwest. That's where all the drugs coming from. So we know this coming from across the Atlantic through boat shipments, through all kind of things. The thing is, if 90% of the pharmaceutical drugs that's being used in the medical industry come from China, and America is in control of this stuff, Molly Percocet, all these different things, Vicodin, oxycodone, all these things you could personally prescribe these things. A doctor could personally prescribe these things to people. So they're creating their own junkies. Then it's this other drug called fentanyl that's killing people that's probably better than all them drugs. They got Future and all kind of other rappers. There ain't never been these many drug head rappers and entertainers in music history. They get higher than Jimi Hendrix and all of them. Now, why don't the government stop this? Because it's a win-win for them. America only accounts for 25% of the world population, but America has 75% of the world's jails. It's so many jails over here. It's probably more jails than colleges over here. Now, they get paid, either person die off the drugs or they go to jail off the drugs. And if they want to go to rehab, it's going to cost an arm and a leg, and they got that covered up too. It's all about money and power and control. And they got control of the people, but not the elect. The Most High has his hands on the chosen few out here, a remnant that's not going to fall for the games. We are weary of saints' devices, and we're not going to fold for them. We pushing forward. We're going to endure to the end. And when we get our crowns of gold from Christ, everything will be good. No more pain, no more worry. And that's true heaven. We're not going for no artificial heaven here, because there's always going to be a worry. There's always going to be a hard time, but glory is at the end of everything that's worth having. So, I'm going to get back to y'all, man. I got a couple videos brewing. Got some music brewing. Y'all check me out, like and subscribe. Y'all tuning in. This is the Hebrew Life. I'm Base Jerusalem. And man, Shalom. I'm gonna holler at y'all. Till I see y'all again. Let's go. Mark, ready, set, go. Mark, ready, set, go. Mark, ready, set, go. Cold like Chicago snow. Holla, can't keep police. Making room in the building for my people like it's lease. When we play for keeps. Killing beats my specialty. Tony Hawk, kick, flip me, twist me, grind a specialty. If my flow is drugs, I'm like schedule 1, you schedule 3. Serve the most high so I could become a better me. Know the game ain't free. Gotta pay attention. G is hot up in the kitchen. See, had them playing.